The Creatives with AI podcast.
Hello, welcome to the Creatives with AI podcast. I'm your host, David, and on today's show, we try to answer the question, can we even trust anything that we hear? It's a valid question, I think, especially considering the recent controversy that we've had around the Keir Starmer recordings in the UK. So, to help us dig into all manner of audio fakery, I spoke with Abdellah Azzouzi, founder of AI Voice Detector. And in our conversation, we talk about how synthetic voices can start wars, it might kill social media, and even redefine the concept of death itself. It's a pretty mind-bending exploration of what an AI-powered future might sound like, I have to admit. Anyway, that's enough for me. Let's get started.
The Creatives with AI podcast, the spiritual home of creatives curious about AI and its role in their future.
Abdellah, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Maybe if you just introduce yourself and then we'll go from there.
My name is Abdellah. I'm from Morocco. I'm a software engineer graduated from the National School of Applied Science. And I discovered that there is a rise of AI voice and cloned voices. Also, the misuse of this technology in the scams and frauds. And that's why I launched AIVoiceDetector.com, which is an AI tool that identifies if an audio was generated by an AI voice or by a human voice. The goal is to protect people from the dangers of AI voice, including misinformations and scams.
I think I saw you originally on Twitter or X or whatever it's called these days. Yeah. And around, I think it was in a discussion around the Keir Starmer audio that came out here in the UK. And for anybody listening who may not know what that is, or if we've got people outside the UK, one of the politicians, the leading Labour politician in the UK, an audio clip came out of him sort of allegedly berating and swearing at his staff and some other stuff. And there's been a lot of analysis done of that audio clip, some of it by one of my past guests, Mike, and others who've really looked into that and have decided that actually based on everything professionally that they can tell, that's a fake, like a deep fake audio file. And I think that was the conversation that we sort of ran across each other, wasn't it?
Yeah. Thanks for bringing this. I expected to tell me about this, the audio of the Starmer. So it was a challenging, and in the first place, AI voice detector wasn't really implementing a mechanism to remove the noise from the audio. So let me tell you the story. The person who generated the AI noise, the AI voice of Starmer, added a lot of, he knew that AI voice detectors will be bypassed by background noise. So he simply added background noise to the audio, and he launched the audio in Twitter, etc. And people believed this, and anyone can tell if the audio was fake or not. And even our AI voice detectors told that the audio was real, but it's fake. And it's because people uploaded the audio with the background noise. They didn't try to remove first the background noise with another tool and then upload the audio into our tool. So that's why our AI voice detector gave the results that the audio was real. After that, like 2 days before, I have integrated the AI noise remover feature into AI voice detector, and it will basically remove the noise from the audio. And then our tool has been detected that the audio was AI generated.
I mean, I guess the real question is to start from the beginning, right? So what do we need to look out for? What are the telltale signs that this might not actually be what it seems?
Yeah, the AI voice generated will be more sophisticated, and our ears are not yet capable of distinguish between AI voice and the human voice. But generally, like without an AI voice, it's difficult. But if we know the personality of the person who is speaking, we can tell if he can tell these things or not. And based on his personality, his character, his tone of voice, we can tell if the voice, or at least we can suspect about if the voice was generated with an AI voice or not.
And is there any way that people can protect themselves? Like, I have a podcast. There's other people who do public speaking all the time. Is there some way that we can do something that would? Is there a way we could maybe use a watermark or something like that to add to our recordings that would maybe, where we could say, well, this is actually us. And then if it doesn't have that, then maybe people could be suspect. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Like, how do we, in a general sense, how do we move forward? How do we sort of fix this? Is there any way to fix it?
Yeah. So there are two approaches that are like watermark and regulation. We will talk about this later. So for the watermark, you are not the one who is responsible to add watermark into the audio. Like if it's natural, there is no watermark. And if it's AI generator, the platform who generated the AI voice is responsible to integrate a watermark into the audio that has been generated. So, but with this approach, we can have three main problems and three main issues. By the way, there are already voice generation platforms who integrated a detector with a watermark integrated. So they can tell if the audio was generated, but only from their platforms. Like they can tell, this is an audio that was generated by our platforms. So this will bring three main problems. The first one is if I heard an audio, I can't really tell if from where the audio has been generated, from which platforms has been generated. Like it's hard. Like I have to scan in every platforms and see if it was from here or from here or from here. Yeah, this is a big problem. The second problem is that with advanced techniques, watermarks can be removed from the audio. And the third problem is that not every voice cloning platforms can integrate a watermark in their audio. And some bad people can have their own private voice cloning software and they can share it with others, and their voice cloning software is designed only for misuse and scams and misinformation.
Yeah, I think that's the worry. That's the big worry. Yeah. I don't think we'll need to. I've talked about using 11 Labs, which is a voice cloning platform, and I have an account there, and I will share some samples of my voice that was cloned. I gave it an hour and a half of me talking just on the podcast and having conversations, and it created a version of my voice, which I don't personally think, because I listen to myself editing the podcast all the time, so I kind of know what my voice sounds like. And it doesn't really sound like me to me. And it doesn't sound like me to my wife. But I guess if somebody didn't know me very well, was only a casual listener, maybe listened to a podcast once, and then I created an audio file and added some background noise to it, maybe like I was at a show or I was out in public somewhere or something like that, I could totally see how, people might not know the difference. I don't know, and I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but is 11 Labs one of those companies that does that has a watermark for their own content?
Yeah, I think so because they only detect their own generated voice. Because if they are not implemented a watermark into their own generation, they can detect other AI voices.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think it's companies like that are they're not going to be the problem. And I think people that use that aren't going to be the problem. It's going to be the bad actors.
Yeah.
It's going to be maybe people who, maybe they're politically motivated or they're financially motivated, or, the big example that everybody uses all the time now is, they can fake your kid's voice, and, you can't take a phone call, and, you get some call and it's like my son calling from university saying, hey, I need you to send me some money. Can you put it to this account? Which I could see, I don't know. I always think that's quite odd, because I would treat anything like that with huge suspicion, just naturally anyway. And it just doesn't seem like the kind of thing that would happen. But I think, but I'm aware of the technology, and I'm aware that happens. I think there are probably a lot of people in the world who are still unaware that technology exists. And, maybe they're older, maybe they're Maybe they don't, they don't live in technology like I do and like we do. So they wouldn't even know that this technology is out there. And I think, those people could be fooled.
I think that even if we know that there are these technologies, like some skillful scammer, etc., will create a sense of emergency into the call. So by creating the sense of emergency, by hearing your voice, and it depends on the actors. If he creates a high level of emergency, you can trust. You can't even trust. You can't even tell if it's an AI or your really son.
Yeah, no, it's true, and it kind of goes back to, well, top tip for everybody else, and I probably shouldn't say this out loud in public, but it doesn't matter as much as it did in the past. But we always had a safe word with my son for all sorts of things. So, if he was at school and some random person came and wanted to pick him up and said, "Oh, your parents said that I was supposed to pick you up from school today," he knew to ask for the password. And if they didn't have the password, he wouldn't go with them. And if somebody came and said, and did that, he sort of knew that he needed to go. Not only did he not go with them, but he needed to go find another adult immediately and try and latch onto that adult and say, somebody's trying to take me away, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think, we've just said to him, we will continue to use passwords for conversations like that. And, unfortunately, we're entering a period in the world where, even with our family, we may have to set up, internal passwords or codes or something for things to protect ourselves, to protect ourselves from this. And which is fine. And that's fine on a personal level. No. Where it gets really scary is on a societal level, where we can't trust anything that we see or hear. And where do we go from there? I don't know. I mean, I've said before on the podcast, and I'm interested to get your thoughts on this. I've said before on the podcast that this is probably the last set of elections that we'll have in the UK and probably the US coming up in the US elections next year. And I think we're going to have some elections probably in the UK next summer as well. That this will probably be the last time that we'll have an election where we'll be able to trust what we see and hear.
Yeah.
I think, 3-4 more years down the road, I think the amount of faked content is going to explode, because the technology in 3 years will be so much better than it is now that it will be extremely difficult to actually tell whether it's, even if it's video content, it's going to be really difficult. I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it will be the AI voice technologies will be more sophisticated, and it will be beneficial for both politicians to promote themselves using AI, to promote themselves to different countries, it will be beneficial for them. But for the bad guys, will use these AI voices and deepfakes to manipulate people and to deceive the information and to make false informations. And I think that to protect people, that it's all about regulations. Most countries have to regulate, and they have to make regulations for the usage of AI voices and cloned voices for the bad people and put them in jail, etc., in order to scare others.
But do you think it's realistic? First of all, I agree with you. I think there needs to be some sort of a basic, the legal framework needs to be updated for the technology that we have available today. I think the laws are quite behind still on that. And I know we've got the AI summit coming up in the UK in the next few weeks, and that'll be one of the big topics of conversation. And I know that the EU is working hard on regulating AI and what can be done. But we also all know that people who are going to do deep fakes and that sort of thing don't care about the regulation to begin with anyway. and they're going to do what they're going to do, there's probably a large part of the population that will assume that governments themselves will be creating disinformation that they then want to spread to their enemies, because we all have a long proven history of doing that, the East versus the West. And, the US has done it to, sort of the Russians and vice versa. And there's always been this information war going back and forth and propaganda and all that stuff. That's only going to get worse. No one's going to control that. I think that's the scariest bit, that we won't know what we're seeing. And even if there's a regulation, it's not going to matter. I guess a question that just came into my mind, though, is let's go down the regulation route. If they do create some sort of regulation and they say, right, we've now got some laws to protect against this and blah, blah, blah. And I guess that bleeds into intellectual property, which we can get into in a minute. Is there any practical way, though, that they could enforce that?
Yeah, there is a practical way by making laws for some people who use AI voices. It will be by integrating systems and AI voice detectors, because without these detectors, they can't really know if the voice was generated by an AI voice or not. That's the only way. The only way is to collaborate with voice cloning platforms. The government will have to collaborate with voice cloning platforms in order to give them access to the watermarks for the voice cloning that they are generating.
What about video as well? That the audio that goes with video, is that something? Do you think that it would be easier to detect the faked audio in a video stream, or do you think it would be easier to detect the fake video bit? Do you know what I'm asking?
Yeah. So I think it's easier to detect a video that has an audio in it. So basically you detect just the audio in the video. But for now, there are not much deepfake videos that are too perfect. The AI voice are perfect, but the videos are not perfect yet. So if you want to detect if a video was deepfaked or not, you just need to scan the audio and the person who is speaking in the audio.
Okay, because I know there's some tools that you can use to translate into different languages, and I'm blanking out on the name of it. I'll add it into the show notes, and you may actually remember the name of it. So if you can, help me out. But
hey, Jen,
where you can take a video and you can actually say, it's a video in English, and you can give it, I don't know, an Arabic transcript to use, and it will actually go through. It will replicate your voice in Arabic, and it will also fix the video. Is it Hey Jen?
Yeah,
is that the one that does it?
Yeah,
Hey Jen, yeah. Got it in the end. There we go. Shout out to Hey Jen. Yeah. So but it will actually fix the mouth shape as well, which is really, really creepy. I mean, it's cool. Yeah. And from a creator perspective, it's really, really interesting, because I think we talked about, before we started recording, we talked about the fact that we might do this show in Arabic as well, because you have a big Arabic audience yourself, and I think that would be a really cool test of the tool. Yeah. And so maybe we could actually do it in HeyGen, and we can show an example of this. And if we do it, I'll definitely put a link to it in the show notes so people can see it and go see the video themselves and see how well it works. But I know I can do it using 11 Labs, so I could literally take the entire transcript of the show, load it into 11 Labs, and just say that I want it in Arabic, I want it in French, I want it in whatever. And it will actually go and remake the whole episode in my voice in that language, at least to do the audio bit. So it's quite interesting. And it's interesting that you said that I guess from your perspective, it makes sense, but it's interesting that you said, it's easier to detect the fakes from the audio perspective than using the video perspective, which I think is quite interesting. I guess what's your biggest concern about all this? Where do you see this going?
The biggest concern is, I think that AI voice will probably make a war in the world, because some people will create for popular politicians, will create them an AI voice and talk about other countries, not only with their citizen, etc., but with other countries as well. So it will make a conflict between countries, and no one can tell that the audio was real or not. For example, you can't even trust the other countries right now without AI voice. So with an AI voice, you can't trust it either. So you can't trust that they claim that it's just an AI. So if it was made by AI, you can trust that, you can tell that the other country tell this, and you can have an evidence to attack the country. For example, if I don't know, if you have a conflict with another country, and you can make an audio and put it into the other countries, and you can tell the other countries that you have an evidence that this countries did this to me and did this to me, and it's responsible for this and this. I will attack him. So this will make a war in the world. Yeah, I guess
there are two major conflicts going on in the world right now where that could absolutely be used.
Yeah.
Somebody could create a video of any one of those leaders saying anything, and then start showing that around. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that's potentially a huge concern. What's the good side, though? I don't want to just focus on the negative, because I think everybody's who deals with AI or who talks about this a lot, I think we all understand what the negatives are, and we all know there's a huge risk. But I also think there's a huge upside to this as well. And I'm interested to know what you think some of the upsides might be.
So the first thing is for voiceovers and voice actors. So you may think that it will be a danger for AI voice for voice actors and voiceovers, but actually they can save time by just cloning their voice and doing the job while they're sleeping. But with the regulation, they can charge for example 1 minute for their cloned voice in order to be used. But I think that it is important to make a contract between the owner of the voice and the person who wants to clone the voice, and this contract will contain the prices per minute, how the user plan to use the cloned voice, and also he must share the version when he completes the audio. He must share it with the owner of the voice. And the owner of the voice, he would agree or not to share the audio in the other social media, in ads, etc. So this will make a benefit. Actually, we are working on the new project, which is voice clone market, .com, where you can sell and buy cloned voices. And this is just a part, yeah. So this is an interesting project, though. So another upside is that I'm talking about the next 5 to 10 years. So in the next 5 to 10 years, popular voice actors and voiceovers, sports commenters, and popular ones may age, or some of them will pass away. So I think it will be a new culture, which is inherit voice cloning. So their children and their grandchildren can inherit the cloned voice of their passed away grandfather, and they can make a living with it. Yeah, that's are the upside that I think.
That's a really interesting point. If you could do that, or if people did do that, it could actually be a really interesting way to bring, because I've always thought, and I've done this with my mom. I've done some recordings with her telling stories about when she was younger and when she grew up and that sort of thing. And we've, just done some small videos just on my phone, nothing major, but that'll be really good. Even just having that little bit of content would be amazing to be able to show grandkids and my grandkids and anybody, who was interested in who she was as a person and what she was like. This takes it to a whole nother level. Because, you could do that. You could have her write something. She could do, stories about when she was a kid, sort of an autobiography kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or get her to, to tell the stories into a camera or something like that. And then you could actually create an AI around it where you could talk to it and ask it questions, and it could, take the body of data that it was provided by her about her life, and it could ask questions, and it could give answers in her voice, which would be really creepy but interesting at the same time, and you've got even people like J.R.R. Tolkien. You can have, the whole Lord of the Rings read in J.R.R. Tolkien's voice, because there are recordings of him around. So you could probably actually hear the whole thing read by him if you wanted to.
So I think that there is a big downside in this point. So, for example, with the rise of sophisticated AI voice, and sophisticated cloned face. So if we can clone the voice, and if we can clone the face, also we might clone the habits, we might clone the emotions of people. So we won't have the ability to feel bad if someone close to people passed away. So if we have someone passed away, we won't feel bad, because we already have his person on our AI, and we can talk to him anytime and anywhere we want, and he can be there forever.
Yeah, I'm sure I read an article, somebody's done that, and they talked about, they did it just in text though, and but they could have a conversation with their dad or something, and it was quite interesting. Something that came up while we were talking about that, and while you were talking about that, what about, there's some tools on the market that allow you to edit single words in, say, a recording, like a podcast recording. If you had an hour-long recording, like let's say this recording, and I went back and I said something that I didn't like, or I wanted to inject a word or to clarify something, I can go in that tool and I can go into the written transcript and I can actually add and change words, and it will then go back and edit the audio to match what was said. So I think that's really dangerous, because I could go in and actually edit something that you said, and it would copy your voice and do that. I guess my question, that I probably should have asked this earlier, but I only just thought about it, is would a tool like yours actually be able to find those small edits in a really big file? Or would it basically just analyze it and say, yeah, this looks real?
Yeah, this is a big challenge, and we faced this challenge with a yes or no audio. So it's similar to the one you are talking right now, by changing word. In order to detect if an audio was generated by an AI or voice, it's at least to be some information between 5 or 7 seconds, 8 seconds. In this period of duration, there are a lot of words, a lot of tone, etc. And with this information, we can have enough information to predict if the voice was generated by AI. But in an evidence or in an interview that the answer, where the answers are yes or no. For example, taking a word which is yes, if it's cloned or real, it's hard to tell if it's an AI or voice or not. It's the same for editing a word. It's very hard to detect just a word.
It'll be interesting to see. I haven't tried the tool myself, so I don't know how well it works. I've only seen the demos of it, and anything that they're going to put as a demo online or whatever is going to sound perfect, because it's marketing and they want it to sound perfect. But I don't know in practice how easy or difficult it might be. I suspect that in the flow of a conversation, where we've been having a conversation, say for example, we've been having a conversation for ages, and then I decide I wanted to add a word in or something, maybe the one-off word, I'm not sure anybody would pick that up, particularly if they're in a car, or they're at the gym and they're listening while they're working out or anything, and there's a lot of distraction going on anyway. I think that kind of stuff is actually even more dangerous than a whole faked video.
Yeah.
If you can just take small snippets of what people say, and like you said, just change a yes to a no,
Yeah.
or I will or I won't.
Yeah.
You know, those sorts of things. And you could entirely change the meaning of what someone says in such a small, casual way that it's quite scary, the potential of that.
Yeah, I can see that the potential is, for example, in the an evidence in the court. For example, when interviewing someone in the court, like in the future, they have to ask him to give an answer not with a yes or no, to give an answer, yes, I did this with this with this, not just yes. So with this, we can hear that we can scan better the audio.
Yeah. And to go back off also to something else now. So talking about the voice actors and that sort of thing, I mean, I know you probably will be aware that Spotify came out and said that they're going to enable that on the platform. So you'll be able to actually buy ads read by in someone else's voice using AI. But the way they're approaching that is they're approaching that from the standpoint that that person will actually receive a royalty from it, and that they have some control, obviously, over what types of products are advertised and in what context and that sort of thing. So that's happening already. I don't think it's been released. They announced it at the podcast show in London last year, but I haven't seen anything actually where it's been used yet. So that's quite interesting, and I think we'll have to watch this space and see. I think not that anybody ever would, but if somebody, you know, really liked my voice and thought, wow, Dave's voice is amazing, they won't. But if they did, I would be okay with that. Again, as long as there was like you said, as long as there was some sort of royalty attached to it, and I, you know, it was something that I was okay with, and, you know, didn't have major philosophical, you know, differences with or whatever, I think that would be okay. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, where that side of it goes. I normally like to kind of wind up conversations with a few standard questions. But before we do that, is there anything that you think that I missed or that we didn't talk about that you think's really important? Or is there something that you really would like to highlight for everybody, you know, around this topic so that everybody's aware?
Yeah, so it's just a filter about the short-term period and the long-term period for the usage of AI voices. In the short period, I don't think that most countries will implement regulation for the AI voices, because most of them are not aware yet of the dangers of the AI voice. So this will bring a lot of problems and a lot of misuse and scams into their countries. And also it will be bad for voice actors, and a lot of voice actors and voiceovers will lose their jobs. But I think that after 5 years, most countries will regulate AI, and it will be also advanced, but also it will be hard to detect if it was generated by an AI voice or by a human voice. And also, I think that if the AI voices are too perfect and the cloned faces are too perfect, the social media will be full of cloned accounts, and they will talk to each other, interaction with each other, and the real people may not be connected or maybe passed away. So the cloned voices will play there forever. But the crucial element is the regulation and the ability to detect the deepfakes.
No, that's an excellent point. And I've said before on the podcast that I think that this whole generative AI and large language model technology that's come out recently eventually will be the death of social media, because nobody will be able to trust anything that they see or read. So I think, you know, when Twitter first came out, and we had Twitter and we had some of the other platforms as well, and Facebook, when it came out in the beginning, it was, you know, people really did connect with each other on it, and it was real people talking to each other. And then the scammers came in, and then the bots came in, and over time it's just sort of eroded the confidence that people have. But I think all this AI stuff will be the nail in the coffin for social media, because even now, you know, a lot of the social media platforms, I just don't even use them anymore, because I can't I just can't trust anything that I read.
Yeah.
And maybe because I'm involved in it on a day-to-day basis, I have a lower trust level than most. But it just, none of it seems like genuine content. It's all, it seems like it's a lot of AI generated content about, hey, go, listen to my training program or sign up for my training program and learn how to do SEO. Or now it's all about AI. So, sign up to my training program and learn how to do prompt engineering in 5 days and all this stuff. And it's just even the voices that come through, a lot of them, exactly like you said, you just don't, you don't know if it's actually the real person or not. And I won't be disappointed if it actually kind of kills off social media. Social media was fun for a while, but I just don't see that it has any kind of serious future unless somebody does something, kind of truly special. Right. So, few questions for you. First of all, in your mind, is AI male or female?
AI is male.
Male. Okay, interesting. Any particular reason why you feel it's male?
It's short. It's just it's direct.
Okay.
Yeah, but I just feel like it's like the name of boys, like John or something like that.
When you have your AI assistant, what are you going to name it?
Yeah, that's a good, very good.
That always gets people.
My all.
Hmm?
I can call it my everything.
That's interesting. I like it. We've got a male. That's good.
Yeah.
So the other thing I always like to ask people about is, there's several different visions of the future in kind of sci-fi films. So we've had things like, we have the Star Trek version, which is, it's basically a utopia. Everything's peaceful. We have the complete polar opposite, which is Mad Max, where the world is just completely descended into chaos. And it's just, there's no computers at all. There's not even phones really. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff in between, there, which is all the sort of dystopian kind of cyberpunk type stuff.
I think the leaders of the world won't let us to it's not like that to live in peace every time and let AI do everything. Like first, I was like you thinking that AI and etc. will take us from the hard work and let us make yoga and travel and etc. But actually, it will take over the world and maybe it will do something that we can't do and maybe kill us. Like not in a direct way, because if I asked you right now, if do you trust anything that ChatGPT says, like you are in a point where everything it says to you can trust it, but in a point in the future, if he can tell you that you can do things in order to kill you.
Yeah, that's the worry. Okay, interesting. So let's let everybody know, where can they go to find your tool, and is it generally available so people can use it and that sort of thing? So how does it work?
Yeah, it's AI Voice Detector is a website, aivoicedetector.com, and people just need to sign up and subscribe for a monthly subscription, and they can upload an audio file. And in the future, we will integrate a Chrome extension as well as the mobile application that will be integrated in every phone calls, meetings, etc. So basically, we want to be in every mic in order to detect the voices.
And do you have anything else you'd like to let people know about while we're here?
Actually, we have talked about a lot of interesting things, but thank you for having me.
No, brilliant. Thanks for coming on. Hopefully, we won't have any tremendous bad news, or we won't have any huge examples of this blowing up in our face in the future. But if anything interesting comes up, I might want to I might want to call you up again and get you back on the podcast, and we can talk about current events if they happen and stuff like that. But it's been amazing. Thank you very much. Yeah, you've given me a lot to think about, actually, even more than I had to think about to begin with. So that's been amazing. So yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, we'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
The Creatives with AI podcast, the spiritual home of creatives curious about AI and its role in their future.